Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I was I watched the Stone Vet live stream, and Shiz was. I'm not a huge fan of her. I mean, I don't. I'm not a huge fan of Shiz. I think that's a fair thing to say. Um, I'm not taking anything away from her ability to get information and cry with victims. She loves to cry with the victims. Um, but she was saying that she believed the reason why the Michael Kaiser prosecution was dropped because of it affecting crime stats for the year in a election year. I don't think that's going to be the case. The crime stat happens when the crime was committed, not when the perpetrator of the crime is sentenced. It's when the crime. So the murder of Donald Cameron is always and forever going to be the year and date that Donald Cameron was murdered, which I think was 2009, if I remember correctly, sometime around Christmas. So, uh, and the time lapse leads me to believe my best guess is, and this is just a guess, that they had a DA on it who's willing to do it, who's going to do it, like an ADA or something like that, and then other more pressing cases came up because there's a lot of pressure in prosecuting crimes. The reason why there's a lot of pressure is because if the defendant doesn't waive time, then they have to get that defendant to trial within a reasonable period of time. It's a constitutional mandate. So there's a lot of pressure to get current cases to trial as soon as they indict somebody, as soon as they file charges. The race is on to get that person tried and either convicted or found not guilty before that constitutional period lapses. And that constitutional period, it takes a variety. It's a very fact-based inquiry as to whether or not time was to figure out whether or not it took too long to get you to trial. So what my best guess is that this is something that has fallen in the cracks. And if you are the kind of person who wants to make sure that the murderer of Donald Cameron is brought to justice, what I would suggest you do is I would suggest that you contact the district attorney of that, what is it, Calhoun County, Alabama. Now, I'm going to not recommend that you call. I don't think that's a good way to do it. Unless there is some sort of a website where they have a way for you to submit like a complaint or a request or something to the district attorney for Calhoun County. My best advice to you would be to write something like a letter, preferably, where you put a stamp on an envelope and you mail it in, because that carries a lot of weight. That carries a lot of weight with people because that means that you went through a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do something like that, as opposed to just dial a phone or send an email, right? It's also a lot harder to ignore a letter because you have a physical thing that you have to open up to see what's in it. You have to unfold everything. You have to decipher the handwriting if it's handwritten or what have you. It's more of a process. You can't just scroll down through it and be done with it. I mean, you could flip the pages and everything like that, but it's a different experience, and most bureaucracies don't like to just throw out pieces of paper. And so it's going to get saved, and it's going to get saved somewhere where people have to look at it. You know what I'm saying? Like I just think it's a different thing. So if you could send a letter, I would suggest that you send a letter. Now, I know not a lot of people are going to do it, but I'm hoping bigger channels might figure out that maybe what I'm saying has some merit, and maybe we shouldn't wait for Shiz to cry with the DA over the murder of Donald Cameron. And maybe people should take action to see that justice is brought for Donald Cameron. Now, I'm not suggesting that you name the murderer or anything like that. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you what to write or how to write it. But if you want that case closed, the murder investigation resolved, and the primary suspect brought to trial, if that's something that the DA can do, that would be the, like, say, hey, Donald Cameron's murder is still open. The family wants closure. The public wants this. You should probably find the guy and get the guy who killed Donald Cameron, because he was a disabled veteran, and we don't want our disabled veterans murdered in this country. How about that? If you want to discuss a specific suspect and how you think that suspect is terrible, you could do that, obviously. I don't think that really adds anything to the equation, because how terrible that person is in real life, or how much distaste you have for that person in real life, has nothing to do with the murder of Donald Cameron. And it is solely the murder of Donald Cameron that a suspect for the murder of Donald Cameron would be tried for, if you understand what I'm saying. The anything about the person being like a terrible person in real life, or a drug addiction in real life, or anything else in real life, there's a high likelihood that cannot be brought up at trial. So it's not really a factor that the DA would be concerned about. But that's what I would suggest. I would suggest contacting the DA through, if they have a website that allows you to send contacts, that would be the way I would go first. If not that, then I would suggest writing a letter and mailing a letter. And if that doesn't work, then I would suggest doing an email. Phone calls, I think, are the most easily disregarded. James Freeman deals with it all the time. He does phone calls. He's a passive aggressive ass when he does it, and that's his shtick, and his audience finds it hilarious and everything like that. But how many times does he get put on ignore, or hung up on accidentally, etc.? It doesn't work well for him, and there's going to be the odds of you actually getting to talk to the district attorney, or even an assistant district attorney, are somewhere in the slim to none range. So it's just not a very useful thing to do. But the district attorney, at least my best guess would be the district attorney would be an elected position. And so you might be able to also write to the campaign. If there is, I think we're coming into an election year, so there might be a campaign for the district attorney, and or a potential replacement for the district attorney. And if someone with maybe Shiz's ability to find things out might want to scrounge something like that up and write to the campaign as well. Say, hey, here's a hot election issue that your constituents might want to have you address, is how are you going to resolve unresolved murders like the murder of Donald Cameron that's been languishing for over a decade. Maybe we can get that resolved. Maybe the candidate for district attorney who's going to get that cold case done and resolved, so that the family of Donald Cameron can have some peace, and his memory can be, maybe his ghost can be put to rest, or what have you. Maybe that candidate would be more likely to get my vote, or the votes of other people, etc., or donations even. Money talks, bullshit walks, and all that fun stuff in our lovely political system. But anyway, that's my suggestion for you. Do with it as you will. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.